Well, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate we're having a coffee break. I hope this is going to be a thrilling discussion. So we are planning on having a true panel discussion, with the exception of a few individuals who will do a presentation. The idea is to really allow for some healthy engagement around the room. So I do hope that those of you that are participating, that are present, will jot down some questions and then ask them a little bit later. And there will be an opportunity for answering questions. But first of all, allow me to extend thanks and appreciation to the organizers of this beautiful event. To Mian Shiraz, thank you so much for the invitation. It was very gracious indeed. It's great to be back in Pakistan. Second time, but first time in Karachi, and truly great honor, great privilege to meet so many old friends and to make so many new friends. But without further ado, we have an exquisite panel and a thrilling discussion. Panel number 2 today will be focusing on the power play, the dynamics of international energy, power, and gas disputes, with a special focus not only on litigation, but on ADR. So I will commence with some questions to our panelists. And if I may, given that you are to my left, Sheikh Mohammed Ali, I shall start with you. And none of these individuals need any further introduction. They are all known to you. So Sheikh Mohammed Ali, if I may start by looking at the legal framework, could you give us some insight in international treaties relating to the energy sector that Pakistan is a signatory to? Well, thank you very much. I think you've touched upon a number of very pertinent points. And one of the points that you did make is that there's been a shift from, or a policy shift away from integrating ICSID rules or ICC rules towards, I believe, LCIA and UN Citral arbitration rules. Why do you think that is? Thank you, and still with you, if I may. So we hear that there is a shift in favor of arbitration.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on that particular shift in the policy of Pakistan when it comes to resolving energy disputes? So we've heard about the current legal framework and the power policy in place in Pakistan and the changes over the years. That was incredibly insightful. I am grateful. If we can then move on to Kasim. So Kasim, you've got a great deal of experience. I know you're a little bit further down the panel. You've got a great deal of experience on ground, particularly when it comes to cases that you've been involved in. But could I ask you to start off by commenting on recent trends in dispute resolution practices in Pakistan in the relevant sectors, so energy, power, gas? So you make some very interesting points about the power granted, certainly to officials in the public sector, to negotiate freely. And I think we will agree that when you're looking at negotiation, the ideal position to be in is to have a win-win or a lose-lose situation, so that both parties are equally pleased or displeased with those negotiations and the outcome that they have arrived at. But pray tell, let's hear your views on whether we find ourselves in a situation that there is over-regularization that prohibits or perhaps does not allow for sufficient discretion, authority, and power to make a call when it comes to these negotiations conducted with public entities and officials. That's a very interesting observation, particularly interesting to hear that you feel that a lot of the time the regulators are reactionary, and it's more about forward planning and seeing what is happening on ground, what is happening within our circles, and looking at addressing that at an opportune time. Now, in terms of the regulation, you've also described what is potentially a conflict in views between different stakeholders involved. So it's really good to have a communion and harmony between those various stakeholders when it comes to decision-making, certainly drafting new policies that will inform the future trend and the future norm. But what was particularly interesting in our discussion is your experience, and you've had the rare pleasure to experience the resolution of complex disputes in this particular field and sector by having effective negotiation and negotiation techniques utilized around the table, and individuals authorized to play the game in accordance with those rules from all around the table. And it does take a true communion between all those individuals to arrive at a successful outcome. So from your point of view, before we move on to the next individual, I'm very keen to hear what changes, if any, you consider would be helpful to facilitate alternative models of dispute resolution being brought in to this sector. We've spent a fair bit of time looking at the framework in place in Pakistan, looking at the shift in policy, certainly when it comes to the adoption of arbitration rules. We've also looked at experience on ground by esteemed practitioners that have been involved in arbitration cases in the energy sector and negotiations, and very tough negotiations in the energy sector. I would like to come to you now and to ask you about the type of disputes and certainly your own experiences in the power sector. And I appreciate that you've got a huge amount of experience in gas and electricity. So if we can focus on those areas, please. And now we've got some other issues surrounding geography and access. We've also got the issue that was raised by one of the individuals who asked a question a bit earlier today regarding resourcing, and that's also a very pertinent issue and a live issue for a number of people sitting in this room and elsewhere. Now, allow me then to move on. I have been reminded that we are running out of time. The discussions are just so thrilling. I could go on all day. But let's now move on to Shahid, and if we've got time, we will come back to other panel members. So Shahid, you are a banking expert, and we are very pleased to have you with us today to discuss not only your views from the banking perspective, but also looking at risk mitigation issues. So we've talked about negotiation, moved on to arbitration, and finally mediation. That's really music to my ears because I'm a huge advocate of all those methods of alternative dispute resolution. And last but by no means least, we have His Honourable Mr. Justice Zulfikar Ahmed Khan with us, and I'm pleased to have him on this panel to be providing a view from the judiciary. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that we are stuck between the coffee break and lunch. I am grateful to all of you. I am truly grateful to our fabulous panel. It's been such an insightful discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. By all means, do continue the discussion in your own time. Thank you to all of you, gentlemen.